Welcome, 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 welcome. We are not going to let Christmas go. We're just going to work this thing all year. No, I am told by an authority in these things that it's not over till January 6th. However, I'll be over it by this weekend. So we're grateful that you are here today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Grateful for the opportunity to be together in spirit and in spiritual community. We're here to deepen and enrich our lives through spiritual practice and the practice of unity principles. And we're grateful that you're here to share that with us. I always like to remind us that we do have a youth program available, and it's wonderful, gifted folks that serve us in that capacity. I want to tell you that if you're joining us for the first time, we want to welcome you. We are grateful that you are here and a part of this experience. If you didn't receive a packet, we'd like to invite you to grab one and just make yourselves at home. If you are in need of spiritual support, you can place a prayer request in our Ministry of Prayer box, which is in the lobby. You can also do that online. It's always our privilege and our pleasure to pray with you and for you. And I invite you simply to breathe into this moment, into this possibility, by simply taking a few deep cleansing breaths. We connect with that source, that divine intelligence that breathes itself through us. We open our hearts to divine love, to that unconditionally loving presence that we call God, and our minds to divine wisdom. Grateful for this opportunity to be together. Grateful for the many gifts that are provided. I always speak a word of gratitude for those who serve this community so graciously in all of the volunteer opportunities. Those who serve through their financial gifts, and those who serve through their presence. We are indeed very blessed, and I am grateful. And so as we move into this day, we do so with an open heart. We remember that as we bring this year to close, there is a new possibility emerging. And yet, this is the eternal now. Let us rejoice in it. So we give thanks for this day and all that unfolds, for each and every person here, and for all of these blessings, and so many more. I simply give thanks, allowing it to be so, as together we say, and so it is. Amen. As many of you know, Dr. Howard Thurman is a favorite preacher of mine, a remarkable man who led one of the first interracial churches in America, as well as served at Morehouse College, and just a remarkable and wonderful man. And he wrote a regular selection each Sunday for years and years, and so many of these readings that I come from those. This one's entitled Blessings at Year's End. I remember with gratitude the fruits of the labors of others, which I have shared as a part of the normal experience of daily living. I remember the beautiful things that I have seen, heard, and felt. Some as a result of seeking on my part, and many that came unheralded into my path, warming my heart and rejoicing my spirit. I remember the moments of distress that proved to be groundless, and those that taught me profoundly about the evilness of evil and the goodness of good. I remember the new people I have met, from whom I have caught glimpses of the meaning of my own life and true character of human dignity. I remember the dreams that haunted me during the year, keeping my mind full of goals and hopes which I did not realize, but from which I drew inspiration to sustain my life and keep steady my purposes. I remember the awareness of the Spirit of God that sought me out in my aloneness and gave to me a sense of assurance that undercut my despair and confirmed my life with new courage and abiding hope. And so as we bring this year to close, I invite us to remember all of those blessings that we have received. The blessings that seemed obvious and those that came hidden or in disguise. For I believe that as we allow God to unfold us, through us, and as us, then our entire life is a blessing. And we can see a totality that we miss when we live in the realm of duality. So I give thanks. I give thanks for the many blessings of this year and all the years of my life. And so it is. Amen.
If you are tempted to sing along, I don't blame you, number one. It's a great song. And some of you will remember Harry Belafonte introducing us to this song when you were young. Mary's Boy Child. Long time ago in Bethlehem, so the Holy Bible say, Mary's boy child, Jesus Christ, was born on Christmas Day. Hark now, hear the angels sing, a new king born today, and man will live forevermore because of Christmas Day. Listen what the angels say, that man will live forevermore because of Christmas Day. While shepherds watched their flock by night, them see a bright new shining star, them hear a choir sing, the music seemed to come from afar. Now Joseph and his wife Mary come to Bethlehem that night. Them find no place to born she child. Not a single room was in sight. Hark now, hear the angels sing, a new king born today, and man will live forevermore because of Christmas Day. Trumpets sound, angels sing, listen what they say, that man will live forevermore because of Christmas Day. By and by they find a little nook in a stable all forlorn, and in a manger cold and dark, Mary's little boy was born. long time ago in Bethlehem. So the Holy Bible say, Mary's boy child, Jesus Christ, was born on Christmas Day. Hark, hear the angels sing, a new king born today, and man will live forevermore because of Christmas Day. Trumpets sound, angels sing. Listen what they say, that man will live forevermore because of Christmas Day.
Thank you, thank you. It is a wonderful time of the year. As I said, it's always kind of interesting to get lost in what day is it, where are we, and I'm not sure if that's just the season or the season of my life that's going on, but nonetheless, it's a wonderful time for me as things are busy in the church, but busy in a different way, to have a little more time for reflection and contemplation. And I think for most of us, we are geared towards this winding up the year, looking at what's next, starting to envision what we would do differently in the new year. And so it's a wonderful time of reflection, and I just wanted to spend a few minutes thinking about, from this passage from Howard Thurman about the blessings at year's end. And in it he says, I remember the awareness of the Spirit of God that sought me out in my aloneness and gave me assurance and abiding hope. As I take stock of my year and my life, I'm reminded over and over again that by surrendering to something greater than myself, all possibility emerges. I was laughing with another longtime minister, and we were talking about a young colleague, young in the terms of just out of school, and I said, how I long for the days of being a fresh graduate when I still knew everything. And then I started the job and learned how much I didn't know about this thing called ministry. You see, that is how life is, isn't it? So often we think we know until we realize we don't. And so those of us that are wise have learned that there is a wisdom and an intelligence, a power and a presence that is greater than we are, that we can trust and that we can allow. Now, this takes some practice. It takes some practice to begin to understand that there is a difference between my egoic mind and the divine mind. That so often we think that we get to tell life how to be. And even in our teaching, we are taught that we are co-creative beings with this divine intelligence, and that through the power of our word and our thought and our action, we do co-create with the divine. This is true. And yet, as we're on the journey, it's interesting that part of the first step in the journey of becoming a metaphysician is you have to take control of your life. You have to take responsibility. You have to take responsibility in the sense that I am somehow participating in my life. I often go back to the question, how did I create, promote, or allow this to be in my life? And those three questions generally give me some indicator. Some things I consciously chose, for good or for ill, but nonetheless they were conscious choices. Others I promoted without realizing. and others that I just allowed. When I come back to the understanding that I am responsible for my life, then I stop trying to change everyone and everything around me and work first within my own consciousness. Now, usually, often, people will show up in my life to help me get clear. Sometimes they do it in very loving ways, and sometimes not. But they're still a blessing to me. There's a wonderful poem that, as we're taking stock, there's a couple of ways to approach this. A wonderful little poet named Caitlin Kennedy wrote a long poem, but just a couple passages. Says, always remember to forget the troubles that passed away, but never forget to remember the blessings that come each day. Always remember to forget the friends that proved untrue, but never forget to remember those who have stuck by you. Another approach comes from an Irish blessing, perhaps less gracious. May those who love us, and those that don't love us, may God turn their hearts. And if he doesn't turn their hearts, may he turn their ankles, so we'll know them by their limping. And therein lies the totality of my prayer life. How do I get from the second to the first? Right? You see, the Bible tells us in all things give thanks. You've heard me talk about this so many times, but it's such a profound awareness. Because in our understanding, our title is We Are Unity. And unity and universe comes from one. Universe comes from one song. Unity is being one. And we teach as the first and foremost principle that there's one power, one life, one presence, one being. Now, throughout the ages, we've given it 10,000 names, God being one of them. But this one life is everywhere present and always available, and we live and move and have our being in it. That is the basis of our teaching. And because we live and move and have our being within the one life and the one intelligence and the one law, we are co-creative beings through the power of our thought, through the power of our consciousness, through the power of our action, through the power of our word. Amazing stuff, isn't it? Amazing stuff when you think of it. That indeed the whole power of the universe is backing your word. Jesus knew this. He said, of myself I do nothing. But this power within me, he called it the Father, but this power within me does the work. You see, when we are in right relationship, we realize there is a power and a presence that is available to us, that is working through us, and that we are not the source of that power, but we are, to the degree that we are willing, the channel through which it can be revealed in the world for good. And so, when we understand that, when we understand there's one life, there's one presence, there's one power, we stop trying to make the outer be the problem. And by that I mean there's cause and there's effect. And I spent much of my life trying to change the effects of my life, thinking that the cause would somehow be different. But no, I had to step into a silly church like this that told me that I'm responsible for my life, that it was probably my consciousness that was creating the problems in my life, even though I had a complete list of those who had wronged me. There's a done me wrong song, right? Of those who, of all the things that happened, of how I'd had bad life. I mean, I had a list. And if I ever forgot, I pulled it out and reviewed just to make sure, right? And they said, no, Marty, turns out you're the participant in the creation. And you can either feel guilty, experiencing blame and shame about that, or you can accept it as your inherent power. And in accepting it as your inherent power, then you begin to understand life differently. I realize that on this journey of life, there are no roadblocks. The things that I thought were blocking my good were not blocking my good. But sometimes there are detours. There are unexpected ways that our lives unfold. If we can stay out of a dualistic way of thinking about that, labeling as good, labeling as bad, but just recognizing our journey is unfolding, and I get to bring my consciousness to everything that is happening, then I choose to see there's nothing blocking my good. And yet, if there is a apparent roadblock in my way, perhaps I should consider an alternative route. The early years, I'd just back up and see if I went at it at 80 miles an hour if it wouldn't move. And then I realized there may be an easier and more gentle way. I say this because I know we get caught in a way of thinking, and our world around us reinforces this over and over and over. If we listen to the news, we hear very often what's wrong in the world, and almost as quickly we begin to hear who's at fault, who's to blame. Now, have you ever noticed that usually that's the other people, the other side of the aisle? It's the tall people, in my case. Those tall people are destroying the world. Those tall, thin people are so taking over. Right? Rarely do we look and say, how am I creating, promoting, or allowing this to be in my life? And yet therein is the answer. Alan Cohen, wonderful speaker and author, said, we must evaluate our experiences in a totally new way. We must refuse to see our sorrows, hurts, and conflicts only at the surface level. We must look deeper. There is no wasted time or purposeless experience. We take the challenges that now face us and rework them in our minds until we see them in a positive light. Until they come into that light, they are begging for our awareness. And as soon as we give it to them, they become golden. I love that idea. The problems in our life are simply begging for our awareness. And if it's a habitual problem, or even a pattern, then that pattern continues to come back around so that we can learn the lesson. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't life wonderful? Isn't life so sweet to say, you didn't get it in first grade. Second grade didn't really happen for you. So let's review in third grade. And, you know, we got 12 years of this before you even go into graduate studies. As I began to understand that, I began to understand, why not allow those lessons to come early and easily and effortlessly. It's just a choice. I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like to resist. I know what it's like to effort. I know how to do that. I'm a Leo, for God's sake. I know how to try and make the world revolve around me. I am the sun. Thank you. But not everybody, turns out, has bought into my program. And so the choice becomes, do I continue to struggle? Do I continue to strive? Do I continue to effort? Or do I step back and say, what is this problem? What is it calling for my awareness? The simplicity of our teachings is just that if we can but change our consciousness, then the laws of the universe naturally work and bring forth something corresponding to the inner understanding, into our inner belief. Isn't it amazing? We don't have to fix the universe. Just saying. You don't take my word for this. You can try this on your own. But we don't have to fix the universe. The universe always has and always will be working perfectly. That's why I say that what is the benefit of holding on to what didn't work? What is the benefit to that? What is the benefit to blaming ourselves for having done the things that didn't work? What is the benefit to ourselves to continue to do the things that didn't work, thinking we'll get a different result? Perhaps, just going to go out on a limb here, maybe you might want to try something different. Wouldn't hurt. And so therein became the secret for me. Learning to perceive reality differently. Learning to observe what was going on, but not be consumed by it. You know, I had a chance some downtime to watch the great documentary, The Civil War, Ken Burns, over this holiday. And if you haven't seen it, put it on your things to do, because it is a brilliant understanding of who we are. And I kept thinking, 3.5 million soldiers went to war in our country. 600,000 of them died. I mean, it is mind-boggling that the city of Charlotte would be gone if you put it in that context. And I kept thinking how that war, as all wars, are just a bad idea that we lock into. And we think that by overcoming the other, the problem will be solved. Eventually, the war came to an end. But part of the message, again, I must have got smarter because I heard a whole new bunch of stuff on this listening. But one of the professors was saying that the Civil War never ends until it ends in our hearts. You see, no war ever ends until it ends in our hearts. And so the causes of that war were separation. Now there's a very metaphorical lesson in that. One can only think how different our world would be if we'd learned the lesson. And one can only think how different our world will be if we learn the lesson now. Because the same fundamental truths face us today that have faced us for millennia. And so all of the teachers who have come to us through the ages, and I'm talking spiritual, enlightened souls, tell us that we're all brothers and sisters. That our job is to love one another, is to forgive freely and graciously, and to see not the outer, but the divine within each and every person. And so I like to say, for many people it's easy. But there are those in our lives whose divinity is well hid. It takes a perceptive eye. And while we can see that, please understand this is not allowing inappropriate behavior to remain inappropriate. But there is a way to approach life, keeping our hearts open, even as we take steps to correct behaviors that are not supporting us. That's the work. I keep coming back to this message that I received at some point in my year, that my job is to keep my heart open. To keep my heart open. Because what I find is when I get upset or when I'm into the duality thinking, then I want to close my heart. I want to project onto others. And the work is to bring it back inside. So as we review our year and what the gifts that it has brought for us, it's wonderful to take that look. And remember, there's a wonderful poem about people, and it said basically people come into our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I think life comes into our life for a reason or a season or a lifetime. And recognizing the difference is a powerful understanding. There's very few people or situations that are lifetime situations. And if they are, cherish those and make sure we take care of them. We should cherish all of it. But sometimes when we try and hold on through something that has just come into our life for a particular reason, trying to make it be a lifetime thing, then we get into attachment and control and all that kind of stuff. When we can simply see that the reason this came into my life was it gave me insight, it gave me wisdom, it taught me who I am, may have taught me who I'm not, but it taught me. And so I can give a blessing to that and allow it to be released. Some things come into our lives for seasons. As I looked at the seasons of my life, it's interesting as we move into new seasons that wisdom, as we are told in Ecclesiastes, unto everything there is a season. And wisdom teaches us to plant in the spring, to grow in the summer, to harvest in the fall, and to be still in the winter. And when we can recognize the seasons of our lives and recognize that if I'm in a season of winter, that is the time to be still, to listen, to allow what is seeking its emergence to come forward through us, so that when spring comes, we're ready. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't life beautiful? Life is so smart. And we would be wise to pay attention. And some things come into our life for a lifetime. Family, relationships, some relationships, marriage. Sometimes they're a reason, sometimes they're a season. But those eternal things, I was thinking about this, that at some level I made a commitment. Ministry has been my lifetime. Even though the jobs that I have held in ministry have changed and evolved. There's always been something larger. I remember one time at a period where I was stepping back from ministry and allowing my partner to be the main person, and was seeking ways to make money, which included waiting tables, which I've done at many points through my career. And so I remember one particular night, this lovely rest, really lovely time in my life, I think about it, and I remember there was a couple, or there was a little family that were celebrating an engagement and a wedding that was about to be. And at another table, there was this cute little couple, and I could tell something was about to happen. Of course, he let me know that this would be the night that they would make that proposal. And another table, a man and his two children at a table, mournful, because they had just were marking the passing of the mom. Now, I'm the waiter, but I had the insight to realize that I always am a minister. And whether I am slinging hash or performing a wedding service or speaking on Sunday, who I am determines much more than what I do. You see, I think one of the fundamental mistakes that many of us make is that we confuse what we do with who we are. And when we can come back to the awareness that who I am is a divine child of the Most High Presence, on assignment, on this planet, to spread love and joy and peace, then the circumstances in which that happens are really less important. I often find people want to make sure they put Reverend in front of my name, which is just a silly title. I'm sorry, it's just Reverend. And I'm as if somehow that defines something other, right? And it's lovely. I use it when I need to get into a hospital quickly. Then I have no problem. The rest of the time, Marty's good, right? But I've never confused the title with who I am. It's part of how I've made it this long. So we are reminded that if we're going to learn to perceive reality differently, then we must learn to work in consciousness first. Consciousness first. I often say that usually in my olden days I would work at the problem as much as I could until it got really messed up, and then I'd fall to my knees and pray. Say, fix this, God. And there comes a moment of realization like, what if I prayed first? And then followed the action that the divine is providing me. It's an easier path. It's an easier path. I'm reminded of Ernest Holmes when he said that we are never alone. We are not isolated fragments of creation, but we are a part of a great whole. We may always turn to the greater whole and accept more and more of its good, its abundance, and right action of which we have been unknowingly depriving ourselves. Unknowingly depriving ourselves. You see, when we become aware that we are co-creative beings, we may also come to the awareness that we have always been co-creative beings, but we weren't very conscious about our co-creation. And so in our creative state, we said things that we did not want, but we did not know the power of our thought or our word or our action. So conscious co-creation says, let me be profoundly aware of my thought, of my words, of my action. Let me start first always in consciousness, in prayer, in meditation, in listening to the divine, seeking first to know what within me needs to change in order for life to be different. Oddly enough, sometimes things change around us. In using our thought, the function of our minds, we need always to remember that it is not our mind that we use. Rather, it is the individualization of the one mind that we use at the level of our awareness of it. You see, when I look to the great masters, when I look to Jesus and the many others who used these powers to heal, to bless, to transform, it was not because he or they were fundamentally different, only in the sense that they had a higher awareness. And from that higher awareness, utilized the one mind in powerful ways. We are gifted beings, my friend. And at some point in our life, we become aware of it and we become responsible for it. And so as we review this year, it might be wonderful to take a moment to say, what were the obvious blessings of this year? What were the obvious ones? The things that we had sought and came forward. New relationships, new friendships, new situations that came into our being. And what are the hidden blessings of this year? Perhaps they were so well hidden we walked right by them and didn't even see them. But in this time of reflection, perhaps that's an interesting question to look at. What did I miss? What remains unhealed in my life? And how must I change in order for it to be healed? How must I change for that which is unhealed in my life to be healed? And what is in need of completion? We'll talk more about this on Tuesday night, but I'm a firm believer that we as a society need to get good at completion. We're great at beginnings. New babies, new jobs, new all that. Yay! New marriages, yay, 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 yay. I remember being at church years ago. I was actually the business manager before I went into ministry, and my dear friend and mentor, Reverend Joyce, came down the highway with a couple, and they were both teary, but I just, said, what's going on? She said, oh, we just completed their divorce ceremony. Tell me more. I've not heard of said thing. She said they made a commitment to be as conscious and loving exiting the relationship as they were going into it. Wow. That's a high level of consciousness. And so I think about these things. How conscious are we of bringing things to completion? Of saying, this is it. I love you, I bless you. I love this, I bless this. But bringing it to completion so that we can welcome the new. Again, Tuesday night, Burning Bowl ceremony, it was just an opportunity to ritualize that. But it's powerful to look at. Because if we continue to carry forward everything that's incomplete, that's unresolved and unfulfilled, thinking we're going to bring something new and powerful into our life, there is no room. Some thoughts. What I do know is that we are blessed. We are blessed to be together. We are blessed for this time. We are blessed for this awareness that we are indeed divine, conscious, co-creative beings. And we are blessed. We have the power to use our good for greater good. So thank you for walking in the light. Let us pray. As we give thanks, giving thanks for all things, giving thanks for the close of this year and all that it represents, the blessings seen, the blessings unseen. We in this moment open our hearts and our minds to this loving presence that seeks its highest expression through us, that loves us unconditionally, and we give thanks. And so I simply speak this word today for each of us gathered here. For I recognize that inherent wholeness, beauty, love, and joy. And I know that as we awaken to this Christ within, this presence of the divine, greater good is revealed through us and as us. We go forth powerfully in the world, allowing our light to shine brightly, to be a blessing to all people. We bless this planet on which we live. We bless our brothers and sisters, for we recognize the brotherhood and sisterhood of all humanity. We hold in consciousness a planet at peace in a world that works for all. And as always, we bless all priests, rabbis, ministers, teachers of all faiths, For we know there are many pathways to the divine, many pathways to the one. And so we bless them all. In joy and in gratitude, I give thanks. I give great thanks and allow it to be so. As together we say, and so it is. Amen.
I invited you to sing the last time, but you didn't. Oops.
A little intimidating.
Okay. Now, this is a new song to me. It's called Rise Up, Shepherd, and Follow. And it's got a real fast beat, so if you want to clap your hands, you are welcome to do that. There's a star in the east on Christmas morn. It will lead to the place where the Savior's born. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Follow, follow. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Follow the star of Bethlehem. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Leave your sheep and leave your lambs. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Leave your ewes and leave your rams. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Follow, follow. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Follow the star of Bethlehem. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. If you take good heed to the angel's words, rise up, shepherd, and follow. You'll forget your flocks, you'll forget your herds. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Follow, follow. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Follow the star of Bethlehem. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Follow, follow. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Follow the star of Bethlehem. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Rise up, shepherd, and follow.